Sir.
Yeah.
6 months.
Can you do me a favor and press the power button?
You can do it all. Pegangin mo. Okay.
Remote is not working.
Bisa nggak? Ya udah. Udah. Oke. Hah? Ini juga kemarin ke server ya? Tukeran. Ska fotonya kirim ke Master Entertainment.
Okay, attendance. Okay, everybody did it? Okay, I got everybody, right? I'm gonna close the QR. Quite a few people are not here. Amadeus? Brian? Nathaniel? Nicholas Lee? Radka? Raifan? Okay. All right. All right. So this is the first time I meet you guys, right?
Yes.
So you are intake 2024. Okay. Yesterday I had a class with 3 people, so I figured I introduce myself today. Jason, Mika, or Mika, Jason, oh yeah, yeah. Those 3 I've met yesterday, but I will not promise anything with regard to names. I cannot remember names. Class of 3 people, yes, but not this much. So, sorry. But I'll introduce myself a bit. My name is Leo, and been teaching at that U maybe 12 years. I spent 16 years in the United States. I was doing my bachelor's, master's, and PhD in mechanical engineering in Ohio State University. If you know anything about American football, our team, our football team, was the national champion last year, but this year we didn't make it. But yeah, we're pretty fanatic about American football. So yeah, I spent 16 years there and went back home to Indonesia in 2012, and then in 2014 I joined SGU as a lecturer in mechatronics. So my expertise is mainly in mechanical. I kind of learned mechatronics and electronics side of things and coding by practice, not by field of expertise. But yeah, I think I've learned enough over the past decade. But I want to share to you some of my philosophy about engineering, because I think being an engineer is more than just learning math, obviously. Being an engineer is really about systematic thinking. I think even business leaders, engineers make better business leaders than those majoring in business because of the systematic thinking. Because we are able to break down a problem into pieces and diagnose problems in a very systematic way, and we understand the world in a systematic way, right? I mean, there are just some rules about this nature that you have to obey, right? I mean, you might not agree with gravity, but it's there. And if you do things violating those principles, you'll end up hurting yourself, right? So that's gravity. And I think it's true in any other part of life, you know, even socially, even in like relationships, friendships, motivating people, economics, finance. You know, this work just works with certain principles, right? And you cannot just ignore them. You have to adapt to them rather than expecting the world to change for you. So I think engineers have that mindset to begin with. So I think we're cool. Okay. But let me share a few things about engineering and also design in particular. Because a lot of the curriculum in engineering teach you a lot of analysis, but they don't teach you a lot of design. And I'll speak about that a little bit, okay? So in the 90s, you guys weren't born, obviously. There are something called a magazine, okay? And it's like a book. It's a book with, you know, it shows up every month. And these are one of my favorite magazines when I was growing up or when I was in the States. Popular Mechanics, Popular Science is another magazine that is pretty famous. And, you know, every time I love these magazines, but every time I look at the cover, okay, 20 bold ideas, innovations, right? Backyard Genius Awards. There's always ideas after ideas after ideas. And at one point it just gets old. Like, where are these products, right? I mean, somebody had an idea about, you know, making some screens that rolls up, whatever. But, you know, that was 20 years ago. Where is it today? And so I learned over the years that ideas and execution is very different. Okay? And I hope you get a taste of this when maybe in the 7th semester, you'll take mechatronic system design with me. It used to be in the 5th semester, so it was going to be next semester for you, but we changed the curriculum, so it'll be in the 7th semester. And you'll get a taste of how painful execution is. And you know, yesterday I met Aiman, who is a mechanic, and he has this, in Indonesian we call it jam terbang. Yeah, I mean it's just the experience of being frustrated in real world engineering, right? Like, I remember I had these ideas to modify my car for a turbo, and then during the planning, you're so excited, and when you work on it, you know, this bolt doesn't match, you tighten that bolt, you broke it, and now it's stuck inside that block. Oh my God, why am I doing this? And then I regret starting the project, and you feel like kicking the car, and you know. So execution is very different than ideas. And I hope when you graduate from SGU, this is a little bit of a philosophy preaching here, but when you graduate from SGU, I hope you get an appreciation of ideas are easy, okay? Everybody says, I want to make Tokopedia. I wanted to make Tokopedia 15 years ago because there is eBay in the United States. In America, there's eBay 2002, maybe. Okay, I thought, okay, this will be great in Indonesia. And I wanted to start that. But everybody have an idea about making Tokopedia or Gojek, right? Oh yeah, I had that idea 10 years ago. Well, where is your business now? Show me. The truth is, only one or two people is able to pull it off. And the same thing is true with scientific ideas or design ideas. The next big product you have in mind. You have all these dreams. Execution is 90%. Okay? And so, how I teach engineering, and in particular design projects, is this cycle. And my professor in America teach me this. This cycle, design, building a prototype, and testing it, is crucial in the learning process of an engineer. So you cannot just design it on paper and call it a good design until you actually build and actually test it. Okay, you design it, it looks great on the computer, on the CAD model, right? I mean, this curve and all that. And then when you start to want to build it, okay, how am I going to even make this hole? Like, how am I going to make this curve? And then suddenly it costs you like 20 million instead of 1 million because of this one feature on your part. And then you figure, okay, let's skip that curve. We don't need that curve, right? I mean, it's to be more functional. So designing on a computer or on paper or ideas to building is very different. And then from building to testing is also very different. And you're on the 4th semester. Someday when you work on your thesis on the 8th semester, you'll understand and appreciate reliability. And I hope to simulate this in the 7th semester by this mechatronic system design projects, right? Making it work for one time is easy. Making it work every time, every day, for 1 hour, or for 1 year, 365 days a week, a year. Okay, that's engineering. So building a machine that works 24 hours 7, 365 days a year is very different. Okay, so that's where testing comes in. And so we have machine shops in America, and we tried to make it one here also when I was head of mechatronics department to build things. And so me and my professor, we built what is called Engineering Education Innovation Center. It's a place where we learn engineering by this design, building, and testing. And we gather industrial projects. So we gather industrial sponsors to sponsor a project for students. And I hope when you work your thesis, you can work on some real-world projects too. And it's always something new. We work with Columbus. So Columbus is the name of my city in Ohio. They wanted to make a treadmill for elephants. Okay, for them to exercise. Because in the zoo, they don't get enough exercise. And so, how do you even make that? It's quite a unique challenge. And so we have exhibitions where students present. So it was exciting. And it's probably why it took me so long to finish my PhD. I just have too much fun teaching this course. We used to do this when we were in the previous campus. We have a big soccer field. And so we built catapults and all that. Back in the States, I also advised this team. It's a student competition for off-road, and students build the car. They actually build it and they compete between campuses. So it was fun. I love cars. We can talk all day about cars. This is just a little bit of my research. I teach at Honda at one point. We teach about assembly. And one of my field of expertise is actually assembly. I didn't want to do my PhD at that time because I don't want to be that geek with the thick eyeglasses and antisocial guy. a lot of Chinese actually do PhD in the United States at the time. But I told my professor, if you want me to do my PhD, I have one condition. I have to be able to explain my research topic to a stranger in under 2 minutes. Okay, I don't want to research some abstract science because typically when you do your PhD dissertation, your project is very abstract. It's very specific, like I cannot even describe it. But my professor gave me an assignment for this project. It's very interesting. If you look at assembly, okay, take this hinge, for example, or your laptop casing, okay? When you design a casing for your laptop, you know, on the bottom there's these screws, right? They're like what? You know, this one is probably like only 4 screws, but there are many laptops with like 8 screws or 12 screws, right? So if I were your boss, you're an engineer. If I were your boss and I ask, well, why do you design it with 12 screws? What's your answer? Okay, reliability. And I say, how about 10? Because your boss concerns about budget and selling price and profit margin, right? You're the engineer. Yeah, you don't care about money, but the guy who pays you care about money. So you should care about money. So why 12? Why 12 screw? Why not 10? Why not 4? Why not 1? Why not slide the case 1 screw? Why not make it like a snap fit, like this, like the battery cover, no screws? So engineers do not have an objective answer to this question, right? Well, I put 4 screws because it's in the corners. 1, 2, 3, 4. And design engineers actually cannot answer this because they don't have a design tool to give a numerical answer and say to their boss, well, we need 5 instead of 4 because it's going to improve by 80%. The strength of the assembly will improve by 80%. So how do you come up with this number, 80% improvement? And so that's what I did. Okay, we developed, me and my professor, we developed a design tool to assess an assembly. So when I design a case or an assembly between 2 parts, like how many screws do we put? Where do we put them? Can I put it next to each other? Which one is optimal? And so this is my PhD. So we model a 3-dimensional object with support, which is basically screws or snap fits, right? For example, this medical spray housing, there is a bottom cap, and they put like 3 snap fits. I did some testing and see the strength. And so what if we increase the number of snap fits? What if we add like 6? Is it double? Is it not? So the design tool is meant to evaluate it. So that's more than 2 minutes, but I hope you understand what I'm doing. Yeah, I did some other projects too. I also, when I was in Indonesia, it's just a bit fun facts, I was involved in some mining project in Nabire, Papua. Okay, it was fun. It's beautiful, beautiful place. And the mining project, it's a gold mining site. And I learned a lot about mining. One fun fact. When I was talking with one of the natives, and he said, oh, this one you can use dompeng. Dompeng. What is dompeng? And he's like, yeah, dompeng. Okay. Turns out, dompeng is actually the brand DONGFENG. It's a brand of generator set and pump. Okay? They say they say the brand instead of it's a pump. Okay, they don't even know the word like pump. They just mention the brand name on the plate. But it was fun, very friendly people, and a lot of disasters. Mining is one of the most challenging field expertise, I would say. So we had an excavator that was digging the rivers, and it sank. So what we have to do to pull it out, you need another excavator. And our place was so remote, it cost us 100 million rupiah just to transport the excavator from the bottom of the hill up the mountain to this place. I was like, this is crazy. I mean, the excavator itself is probably 500 million. Transporting it costs you 100 million. Then they have to pull it out and hope that the second guy doesn't get sick also. Man, it was a pain. Anyways, there it is, Dongfeng. Dongfeng. It's a diesel engine actually. It's just a brand. I had Honda Integra, 1993 Integra GSR. I put a turbo on it. It was fun. I tell all the stories to friends in automotive system class. I put a T3 T04E turbo. So I upgraded from 170 horsepower to 240 horsepower. It was fun. Yeah, that's the turbo I used. I was poor, so I had to buy all used parts. The header for the turbo is actually cracked, and so we just welded it in. So I buy everything used. Some poor college kid trying to modify his car. Tune it myself with air-fuel ratio, and got caught by the police when I was violating the speed limits. Because I wasn't paying attention to the speed limit, I was tuning in the, my friend was holding the laptop and we had to tune the fuel map under boost and hope that my engine didn't crack. And then I switched to a supercharger. This is an Eaton supercharger. It feels much better even though I'm making less horsepower because the response is instant. Okay. It's very tight. It's very tight. I had to put it on the intake side of the engine. Who here loves cars, by the way? Okay, not too many. The hobby is getting extinct these days with EVs. Yeah, you cannot modify anything with EV. You just buy and enjoy it. I love it though. I mean, instant throttle response, nice torque. But yeah, I put it on the intake side and it's very tight. And I have to put an after cooler because the result of pumping air, by the way, is heat. So the pressurized air is very hot, and if the air that goes into the engine is too hot, it can create knocking, ngelitik. Oh yeah, ngelitik. When you press the gas pedal a bit deeper and with a high gear and your engine is not in prime condition, you can have little local explosions in the combustion chamber. Not good for engine. Can blow up engine. Who knows what this is? Not. It's a Nissan. It's a Nissan Silvia, S13, 1989. They call it 240SX in the United States. I built the engine, put new pistons on it. I lowered the compression to 9 to 1 because we don't understand how engines work. I'm gonna spend time talking about cars too much. But if this is your piston, this is your crank, and it goes up and down, this is your combustion chamber, right?
Yeah.
So the compression ratio is the piston going up and down, and this is going like this, right?
Yeah.
Now, when you compress this, there is something called compression ratio. A typical compression ratio of a typical car is probably like 9.5 to 1. So from 9.5 to 1, and then you spray the fuel and it combusts. A fuel goes in and it combusts. Now, I have to lower this a little bit, so I go to 9 to 1. I opt for like a dished piston. So a little bit different geometry. So under boost, under turbo, it doesn't create too much cylinder pressure. Yeah, it was fun, but I got into crash, so I didn't finish the project. And after that, I just take a break from car hobbies for now, raise up my kids. Anyways, that's about me, and a little bit about what I love. So let's talk about the course and what you're about to learn. Okay, this course is on machine design, and I told you I'll talk to you about the difference between analysis and design. Can somebody make a guess? What is the difference between analysis and design? Make a guess. When you say you analyze something, what do you do? Give me an example. Like if you're going to analyze this table.
The data only has to like exist, only have to be there or to be analyzed. What design is like making it first.
Okay, so analyzing or analysis is analyzing something that exists, right? So there is the product, there is the structure. You know, I have this bracket, I'm pushing with the force F. What is the displacement? Okay? You learned this, right? Statics, strength of materials, yes? Okay. Still remember? Pop quiz on this? So, an analysis is you already have something like a structure or something. There's some load. There's a table. I'm going to sit on it. And you calculate the deflection or you calculate if it breaks or not. That's analysis. What is design? You said creating something. Okay?
Yeah.
What's that?
Software based.
Software based. Okay, you can use software as a tool to do design. But philosophically, what is the contrast between analysis and design? He highlights the fact that analysis, you have something, an existing design that you analyze. But design project, usually you create something, right? And what do I give you as a requirement?
Some criteria.
Criteria, okay? What is important? What is not important? Yeah. Good. Did you raise your hand? Okay, you can go ahead and answer. What is a typical given variables in design? Function, features, yeah, and technical specification, right? So if I tell you, okay, design me a table, what do you ask me back?
Dimensions.
Okay, how big do you want it? Height, material, and I say, it's up to you. Now, if I say it's up to you as a design engineer, what would drive you toward a certain material or other material?
What do you need it for?
The load, the load rating, right? I mean, how heavy? What are you putting on this table?
Yeah.
Are you just writing something, or are you working on machineries? It's very different design. Are you cooking? Is this a kitchen table? It's very different. Then you need stainless steel because you're going to have water all over the place. So, design is coming up with an idea or a solution to a given specification, right? So if I ask you to do analysis, how many correct answers are there? One correct answer. What about design?
You correct.
There is no answer key in the back of the textbook, right? You can come up with many designs. Like design the leg of this table. Well, there are reasons why people design it this way. Okay? Thin piece, cheap, probably, right? That's probably the priority of the design engineer. Maybe some aesthetics with these holes. It doesn't have to have holes, but it kind of looks better for a cheap product. So there are reasons behind the design, but in the end, 10 people will come up with 10 different designs. And that's the beauty of design, right? What I want to teach you is to be design engineers, not just to be analysts. Because, you know, think of it. If you work for a furniture company, let's say making this table, and you're the mechanical engineer, do you really think you're going to do analysis? No. He's going to say, I have this client, he wants to order 1,000 kitchen tables with this specification and design me something as cheap as possible for me to make as much money as possible so I can pay your salary, right? So that's what the boss is going to say to the engineers. So in reality, in the real world, you're going to do much more design than analysis, okay? Analysis belongs in the lab. Analysis belongs in NASA and research institutes and universities. But when you go out there and you work for a company, most likely you're going to do this. And you're going to do this. You're going to do a lot of Excel. Yeah, I know. You take mechatronics in SU and I'm going to do Excel. Yes, you will. Because this world revolves around money. And whatever you design has to fit in the budget. Okay? So I'm going to teach the course machine design from a design perspective. Okay? Not from an analysis point of view. So a lot of the problem sets you're going to do, for example, you know, design me a belt drive that can do this ratio with this requirement and this lifetime with this torque capacity, right? So those are design specifications. And then your answers might be different. There is no one single answer in the back of the book. That's real world engineering. Yes?
We're going to use software, Spencer.
Sure.
So do we have to bring laptop like every week or?
Yes, it's a good idea to bring laptop every week.
Something next week or?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, phones work too, I guess, right now, these days. You guys should work. This does. Okay, so course objective on machine design. This is a course on analysis, design, integration, and best practices. And that's also what I want to teach you is the best practices. Because, you know, guys, in reality, nobody calculates on every single decision. Like, say you want to decide on the bolt to hold this bracket. Let's use a 6mm bolt. Did you calculate that? No. It's just, we have it on the shelf. So it's best practices. It's not just formulas. I'm fine with formulas. I never ask my students to memorize formulas because I don't want to memorize formulas. Okay? I hate memorization. So I will always give you formulas that you need. Don't worry. Okay, we'll do machine elements such as shaft, bearings, springs, gears, belts, chains, etc. This course aims to equip students with the following. Number 1, concepts, principles, design processes, and its roles in machine element design. 2, engineering modeling in its application to practice mechanical design. And 3, practical skills and familiarity with best practices. For example, chain drives, okay, with sprockets, like your bicycle. How many tooth or teeth do you need to engage in a sprocket? Well, a minimum of 6. It's just best practices, you know. You don't have to memorize it, but I think it's useful. I think in practical engineer need those best practices. Okay, quizzes. No makeup quizzes will be given without doctor's letter in case of extended absence due to illness. See me or WhatsApp me. Quizzes are closed books, closed notes, and I'm referring to the calculation quizzes. There will be 2 kinds of quizzes. There will be a multiple choice quiz that is more like design concepts, and the calculation quiz is calculation. But I'll give you all the formulas. Don't worry.
So the quiz is on paper, sir.
The calculation quiz is paper-based.
Oh, but the one using laptop and designing.
Yeah, the multiple choice will be using a platform. Final exam is closed book, closed notes. Any necessary formula will be given. All solutions must be neat and orderly, okay? If I cannot read it, I cannot grade it. And I'll tell you, I hate grading, okay? So if you don't write well, it adds up to my headache. Not a good idea to upset your lecturer. Okay, grading structure. 60% is based on your homeworks, quizzes, and in-class post-test. What I will do starting next week is I'll have a pre-test at the beginning of the class. We'll do the lecture, and then at the end, we'll do a post-test, which is exactly the same as the pre-test. So if you pay attention, you'll be fine.
So the pre-test is also graded.
No, the pre-test is just to get you warmed up about the
Oh,
topic.
the post-test is
The
the one.
post-test is the graded one. Okay, so just don't fall asleep in class and you'll be fine. Final exam and project, maybe. I don't know. I don't know about the project yet.
For now, it's the final exam.
Yeah. Any questions about the course? No? Okay. All right, let's kick us off on introduction to machine elements. And I love cars, so I'll be using cars a lot for examples. Who knows what that car is? Honda S2000. I love to have it, but it's only 2 seats, so I'll be scolded. I mean, my wife will be angry at me. I'm too selfish, so yeah, I had to skip that. Maybe in another life, I'll have Honda S2000. Okay. We're studying machine design in this course. What is a machine? What is the definition of a machine? A general definition. You want to give it a shot? No. How can you say no? What is a machine? Okay, it's accomplishing a certain task. Kind of helps you to do a certain task. What do you think? Add to its definition. It's probably easier if you think of examples, like an engine, a car engine. What does a car engine do? It produces power, right? But it cannot produce power or motion by itself. It needs fuel. So what does it do? What does a car engine do? Convert. And what is that? What is it converting? Energy, right? So a machine is something that does something with energy, whether that's changing or converting energy, or it's manipulating a certain energy, like motion. Motion is an energy. So for example, you bicycle. Is bicycle a machine? Yes. What does it do? Okay, it starts from the input is my legs. Okay. So what does it do? It converts my leg motion, which is rotational motion. What else does it do? Into translation, but during that process, what does a bicycle do? Of course it moves. So it converts from rotation to translation, but that's not straightforward, right? You also have some ratios. The gear ratio. What does the gear ratio do? Manipulate the torque, manipulate the output speed, right? And in a bicycle, what's the gear ratio selection? How do you select the gears? When do you select certain gears?
Depending on the environment.
Okay.
Incline
When you're going uphill, what kind of gear ratio do you do?
you lower it.
Okay, which is you pedal a lot
Yeah.
and you move a little bit.
Yeah.
But what happens to the torque? The torque is increased, the speed is decreased. On the opposite side, if you're going on a flat and you want to go fast, why do you feel the pedal is heavy? For the high ratio gears. Because the torque is sacrificed for the sake of speed. And so machines also do this manipulation of speed and torque. Okay? So, first of all, it converts the different types of energy. All these slides is in Google Classroom, by the way. But it's a good idea to take notes because in taking notes, you learn. So, chemical energy, electrical energy, kinetic energy, heat, and these are the examples. So we can also categorize machine elements, because in order to do those manipulations, including like in bicycles, we're going to need some elements. Okay? First of all, there is something called shaft. A shaft is basically a rod which rotates with a certain torque. Think about it. If you want to create energy or motion, your machine, let's say your machine is trying to create a kinetic motion. You can do rotation or translation, but which one makes more sense? Do you notice that pretty much most machines will create rotation? Whether that's gasoline engines, whether that's an electric motor, or any other types of motor, most of them, except for pneumatic cylinders. For example, pneumatic cylinders, have you learned this?
Yes.
Pneumatics, yeah? You put in pressure here, this thing moves in translation, right? But, that's probably an exception. But most actuators work in rotation because it's just practical, right? Because translation, you stop. And then you cannot keep going, but rotation, you can just keep going. So, the first machine element that we're going to learn is basically shaft. And in order for this thing to rotate, you're going to need to support it, right? What happens if your shaft rotates without the bearings? Okay, it wobbles, first of all, nothing is holding it, right? But if you want to hold it tight, what happens without bearings? Friction. And you're going to eat up your shaft and damage it in no time. And so think of a fan, for example, like the wall fan that rotates. In the back there is the motor, right? The shaft will be supported by bearings here and here. So any motor, if you see a shaft output like this, there is bearing here, and there is bearing in the front. And you always have 2 bearings per shaft. Not 1, not 3, 2. And we'll talk about why when we get the bearings. Okay? Anybody know what this is? It's also a bearing. But the difference is there is no rotating element or balls or rollers. This is called a plain bearing. Okay, a plain bearing is a bearing, but it's plain. There are dry ones and there are pressurized ones, like in engines. And we'll talk about that. But these are also low friction. It's not as low friction as these, but it's good enough. Because think about it. Many times, you don't need a high RPM application, right? These things are shaft that rotates, right? It's a machine element. But I'm not rotating 1,000 RPM. So I don't need these guys. I just need a method to hold my shaft to rotate. Okay? I still need something. And oftentimes you use a soft metal like brass, copper, sometimes a softer steel that you put graphite on it, and so it's lower friction. So this still has some friction, but you still need some material to interface with this friction. Okay, so the rings here are made with softer metals, kind of a mix of brass or bronze. And so the shaft and the weight can rest on these bearing surfaces. Okay? So this is called plain bearing. So you got roller bearings and you got plain bearings. So if I try to draw like a mind map for this course, this is probably helpful for you guys. I didn't get a chance to do it on the slide. So you got shaft, and then you have the roller bearings, not rolling contact bearings to be precise. Okay, so a shaft needs to be supported, right? You have rolling contact bearings. You have plain bearings. To support the shaft. Now, in order to then manipulate the power from the shaft, usually the shaft is connected to these elements. What is the function of these elements? Ratio, right? We talked about it. So then we have the power transmission. So shafts, we'll talk about bearing, plain bearings, maybe other shaft elements like a shaft collar to hold the shaft and other things. Okay, so shaft this is one topic. The next topic is power transmission, and there are 3 major ways to do this. What is that? Gears. What else? Belts and chains. Okay, this is pretty much the main ways you manipulate torque and speed, right? So power transmission is all about torque versus speed. Which one you want at which applications. So these are the 3 main ways, and each one of them have different strengths and weaknesses. Okay? This is also kind of a power transmission, even though it does something else. Anybody knows what that is?
Worm.
It looks like a worm gear, but it's not a gear. What happens if you rotate this shaft? This thing is going to move linear, right? So this is called linear motion sets. So devices like that, it's called a ball screw or a lead screw. Okay, it's called, the generic name of it is linear motion. So linear motion converts, other than torque and speed, it also converts rotation to translation. Okay? There are also gears to do that, like rack and pinion, but this is usually in industrial machines. You also use this to raise up a bed, for example, like your hospital bed. You press a button, like the motor rotates, right? But you're moving up. So how does it do that? Linear motion. Okay? So this is the second set of topic we discussed. Final set of topic is other elements. Okay? Now, other machine elements are bolts, springs, okay? And when I was doing my bachelor degree, I had to take 3 courses on machine elements. You guys only take 1. So we have to compress this into 1 semester. So we only have time to discuss these things. Now, what I want you to do is I want you to start exploring these elements in everyday products. Okay? So before we go any further, this is a good time for a break. And when you come back from the break, I want you to explore. Open your Google Classroom. There is the in-class activity. And there's an attachment on it. Okay? If you open the attachment, there are these everyday products. I want you to do this in teams of 2 people. Okay? And I want you to look at and study these products and look into the machine elements inside these products. Okay? Sometimes I have you bring the products and you take it apart. We don't have time this semester to do that. Let's do that next time we meet in mechatronic system design. I usually do what is called a reverse engineering exercise. You basically take an existing product, you take it apart, and you take pictures of it and study. But just do it on paper and on your laptop. Find some exploded view of these things. Okay? What you can do is you can search, for example, cordless power drill exploded view. Okay? And you'll see like things with elements exploded. Okay? So, you're going to do this right now. Well, take a break and come back and work on this teams of 2. Put your name on the sign-up sheet so we're not doing the same thing.
Sir, this is category 1.
Yeah, what you
It's up to you. It's just, this is from Gemini. By the way, I'm not against AI. I think AI is here to stay, and I love the fact that I have an assistant called AI to teach you guys. So that's fine to use AI, but you have to understand what the AI gives you, and you have to be able to explain what it is. You can do other things other than the one on the list. It's up to you. I'm just giving you examples. Okay, so OpenMachine